Hello, Misfits, and welcome! In this episode, I want to talk all about how to prepare for a D&D session, which is something that the DMG doesn't exactly cover, and I'm sure most people have been looking for advice on and trying to find tips on how to do that. So this is going to be my best attempt at trying to help you out with that specific problem. As with anything, this is what I do and what works for me, but it might not be what works for you. So listen to what I have to say, take from it what you will, what you like, throw out the rest. This is just to help you kind of figure out what you need and what's going to be good for you. Also, if I seem a little less animated than normal or just a little tired, that is because I'm kind of getting over being sick, and this morning I pinched a nerve in my neck, which is great. It's something that I do, or happens to be, fairly frequently, and it's always so fun and great. So for this video, I will avoid turning my head to the right, and hopefully that will be fine. So I've broken this down into sort of 5 points, though there are some sort of extra tidbits that might be helpful or might not. But first, number 1, when you're preparing for a session, the first thing you want to do is look over any material that you plan to cover during the session. This can be the chapters you plan to cover if you're running a published campaign. This can be any notes that you have written or any material that you wrote that you're planning to cover in your game. And this could also just be familiarizing yourself with the lore of your world or setting or whatever. You want to make sure that you go through all of that and you've read through it more than once, so that when things come up, it's a little easier for you to recall and answer questions on that, and it will make you feel more comfortable in yourself and confident in your knowledge of the scenario and what you plan to tell in terms of story. So you really just want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with that. I would take it a step further, and instead of just reading through it or looking over it, maybe also take some notes. My Curse of Strahd campaign, I read through the whole thing multiple times, and of course constantly referenced it when I was preparing for sessions, and I wrote little notes all over the place. In the margins, on sticky notes, in a notebook, all sorts of stuff. So, when in doubt, write it out. For a little rhyme there, when in doubt, write it out. It helps you recall and remember it way more, whether you reference those notes in the future or not. Number 2, you want to have your monsters for any prepped encounters at the ready. And what I mean by that is have their stat blocks at hand and easy to grab and reference, and also sort of jot down things like AC and health, so that you kind of have that ready to go. I normally keep a notebook. I'll get it out over here. I generally keep a notebook for each of my campaigns, and I will sort of jot down like the AC and the health, and I will sort of keep track of that during the encounter, and I do that for all of my monsters, just sort of quick and easy. It's also good to look through and familiarize yourself with any abilities these monsters and baddies have. Some of them have some really special things, and you want to keep track of that and make sure you don't forget it during combat. And you know, if you're doing a spellcaster, I normally draw out the spell slots and sort of check them off as I cast things and stuff like that. So make sure you have that at the ready. I would say having your monsters prepped and ready to go is more important than the map itself, because when in doubt, you can theater of mind everything and just imagine it, but you can't necessarily just imagine stats that you're not familiar with. So you want to make sure that you check those out and prepare that. Number 3, if you plan to use a map or a special setting in your session, you're going to want to prepare that ahead of time. Whether that is drawing it out all ahead of time and then covering it up and revealing it piece by piece, or if you're not really worried about that, just drawing it out and having it there at the ready, or if you have the fancy dwarven forge stuff, building it all out and then hiding it away and unveiling it when it's time. Or even if you're doing theater of the mind, look over those maps or look over your notes on that specific setting or location so that you are familiar with it and you can answer questions. If somebody comes up and they're like, all right, I want to search this hallway, you need to know fairly quickly if there's anything of note in that hallway. So make sure that you have looked over that and all of that stuff is prepared and readied ahead of time. For me, because my campaigns are virtual, it's all in Roll20, I have to make sure that ahead of time I've gone through in Roll20 and I've prepared that map. So for me, that's drawing in all of the walls so that dynamic lighting and line of sight stuff works, putting in lights and torches and light sources where they need to be, using the one-way walls where it's necessary, stuff like that. So make sure that you've taken the time to do that, and because you don't want to be doing that like in the session. It's very time consuming and it can be kind of stressful, and you want to have that all taken care of ahead of time for your own mental sanity and just for the sake of timeliness, so that you have more time to spend on the actual playing of the game. Number 4, you want to make sure that you have your players' character sheets at the ready. Not everybody, or probably not everybody realizes that they should have their players' character sheets, but I think it's really, really important that you do. So make sure that you have those, whether you're looking at them through D&D Beyond, which is what I do, or you have had your players send you a copy, whatever it is, you want that at the ready. You want to look over them, maybe jot down some notes, particularly like their passive scores, like their passive perception or passive insight. Those things are super crucial. They come up very often, and it's easier if you have that at the ready to look at, so that you don't necessarily have to ask them, because if you're like, what's your passive perception score? They're gonna suddenly be kind of like, what's happening? Is there something there? Do I need to be worried? You know, they might not be the best at avoiding metagaming, so make sure you've looked over those and you've got that at the ready. They also might have some special abilities that they forget about, so it's nice to look over that so you can kind of remind them, nudge them along through combat. They have a lot to keep track of, just like we have a lot to keep track of, and sometimes they struggle with it a little bit more than we do, so it's good to be familiar with their characters so that you can give them a helping hand and kind of help the game move forward and keep things sort of running smoothly. So number 5, you want to prepare your DM screen. So most official screens that you buy will come with some really great info already sort of built into them. And those are great reference tools. They're stuff that generally comes up during most sessions. But if you're like me and you don't use one of those, you're going to want to prepare some reference materials for yourself ahead of time in case they come up. Some of my favorite things to always have at the ready are a list of conditions and what those mean and how they function, sort of like basic costs for things. So if they pop in a tavern, I have a quick reference guide to how much stuff costs. And then it's also good to have like object stats at the ready. If they suddenly say, I want to bust down this door, if you have that object stat sort of section in front of you, you know what the AC of a wooden door is and how many hit points it has, and you're ready to go with that. So just sort of those reference materials, if you have them at the ready, you don't have to waste time looking them up or digging through the DMG or Player's Handbook to find them, and that really saves on a lot of time. For me, my DM screen is just my desktop, and so my reference materials are just tabs on my computer. But for you, you might want to print out some things and put them up on your physical DM screen. Or if you have the pre-made ones, a lot of those already have this stuff built in, so you should be ready to go. But figure out what it is that you like to have at the ready, what information you find yourselves looking up most frequently, and put that there as your guide that you can look at. I think that would be really, really helpful for you. So all of those things that I just listed are all the basics that everyone should do before a session. Of course, the more experience you have with running a game, the less you can probably get away with doing beforehand. But really be careful about that. There are some things that you just can't put off, and there are some things that you can't just, like, make up on the fly. But as you run games, as you play, you'll figure out exactly how much prep you really need to feel comfortable running a game. And really that's something that you're only going to figure out with time and experience and practice. There are some extra things that I like to do before a game that might not be applicable to everyone, but just in case, some things that I like to do is I prepare music for my session. My group, actually, I think almost all of us have met through music in some way, and I would argue that we're all musicians of some kind. So music is really, really important to me, so I always have playlists prepped and at the ready beforehand, and that's always been a really fun thing that I like to have ready before a session and prepare for specific scenes and fights and things like that. Other things that some people might like to do beforehand are sort of pick out your favorite snacks and things that you want to have at the ready. Not everybody is a big snacker during D&D, but some of us are and like to have that on the side at the ready. So those are just a few things. And hopefully all of that has been helpful to you. As with anything, if you liked this content and you liked this video, please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Tell me what you like to do to prepare for a session. Tell me what your pre-game rituals are that help you feel confident in the game you're about to run. Let me know what you are worried about or stressed about when you're preparing for a game. I'd love to hear about all of those wonderful things. But hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of what I do when I'm preparing for a game. And with that, I hope that you guys have a lovely day. For my stateside people, I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I will see you again next time. She's here, guys. She's here. And she's so pretty. And I might be in love. I can't even express the joy I felt when I opened this package. And, oh, it's good. This is the start of a very dangerous addiction, and you know, it's fine. If I live in denial, I think I will be happy with that. And man, it's good. It feels good. And I'm glad I went with the rapier. I'm a bit of a petite person, and I don't think a longsword would be good for me, you know? I think that might be a little difficult for me to hold. But a rapier, now that is just my speed, you know, and it feels good. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. It's got substance to it. And so far I have yet to break anything swinging it around my apartment. I didn't tell my family that I was buying a sword. I just sort of did it. And so that was a little bit of an awkward conversation, but it's fine. You know, I think at this point in my life, they just sort of expect these things from me, which is cool, which is fine. You know, I'm glad that they accept that I'm the type of daughter and sister that's gonna buy swords. That's how I spend my money. But anyway, this is great. If I get another one soon, I'll let you guys know, and I will certainly post many pictures and put it in many videos. For now, this is just gonna sit kind of in the back over. That was a mistake. It's gonna sit kind of in the back over there, and until I find a good way to mount it or a good place to put it. But I had to share the sword because it's great. And yes, the name that is on my sword is Shadowcast. My very first D&D player was a tiefling rogue, and her name was Nox Shadowcast. And so this sword is for her. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening to me ramble about my nerdy purchases. Bye.